Hey everyone, this is Jen Kessenich, and you're listening to You Be You and I'll Be Me. And my guest today is Victoria McCooey. She is a certified life coach who specializes in helping women who are struggling with divorce. She left a 35-year career in advertising to pursue this passion full time after doing extensive volunteer work for years with victims of domestic violence. Victoria, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I appreciate you coming on and talking about this really important subject.
Yes.
And, your honesty and bravery is just going to help a lot of people out there who are feeling the same way.
That's what I'm hoping. It's really my mission to bring this to light so that people who feel like they have no way out will realize it can be done.
Exactly. And so how did this even all start? How did you get to where you are now? What's the beginning?
It all started when I found myself in an abusive marriage. It started out slowly with other types of abuse, with financial abuse, I guess, was the first, where I had no access to any money, including the money I was making. My husband decided it was best if one person controlled all the money.
Right.
And it just trickled from there. It all seemed logical, and it all seemed to make sense at the time. And then abuse became verbal if I didn't see things his way. There was really no partnership. There was no communication. There were no decisions made as a team. Everything was one person making all the decisions and the other person following through. And we had 3 kids, so it just didn't seem like that big of a problem until when I tried to get more control over money, finances. Things were going south, and I felt like I had to step up and step in and take care of things more. And the more I tried to take care of things, or the more I tried in his eyes to gain control, the more abusive he got. So the abuse turned very emotional, death threats and things that I didn't really take too seriously until one day when I wouldn't do whatever it was he thought I needed to be doing. He choked me.
Wow.
And I blacked out, and it was in front of our youngest son, who was 6 at the time. My son thought I was dead. I think my husband thought I was dead too, because when I came to, he had a total look of panic on his face.
Yeah, like, uh-oh, what did I do?
Right. So it was all very clear at that moment that this was the line that had been crossed. And I picked up the phone and I called the police without even considering an alternative. I mean, that's what I knew had to be done. Mm-hmm. He went to jail, and I got an order of protection, and I filed for divorce, and he made it as difficult as he possibly could for me to divorce him. It was at a time when New York State did not have no fault to divorce, so I had to prove I had grounds for divorce. And even with something as what I thought would be open and shut, as someone hurting the other person, I still struggled to get the divorce, and it took 6 years for the divorce to be final. And we were in court for another 10 years after that, with fighting over child support, fighting over college tuition, fighting over where the kids should live. It was just ongoing. So I kind of saw everything that could possibly happen in a divorce situation.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. So then you decided, after you went through this, that you wanted to start helping other people who were struggling with the same thing.
Exactly. I was so beaten down by emotionally at the point when I was getting my divorce, when it started, that everything was harder than it needed to be. I was so weak. I was in such an abuse victim mentality.
Right.
That I wasn't taking care of myself. I wasn't eating. I wasn't exercising. I was just falling apart, and everything became harder because of that.
Yeah.
I wasn't well. I wasn't emotionally well. I wasn't physically well. I wasn't spiritually well. I wasn't doing anything to take care of myself. And so I didn't do well at making big decisions, at figuring out how my household should be run or my money should be spent or saved, or, I just wasn't as capable as I needed to be.
So isn't it funny, though, how self-care, it goes back to
Yes.
self-care. You have self-care, then you're starting from a better point.
It's like put your own oxygen mask on
Yes.
first, right?
Exactly.
Yes. So I couldn't, and I recognized that I was not able to be as good a mother as I needed to be during this most difficult time in my children's lives.
Yeah.
So I figured out relatively quickly that I had to start eating better and exercising and getting more sleep and not drinking
Right.
as much, and cutting out all the bad stuff and really taking care of myself so that I could function. So once I did that, things started to look better.
Right. A little more clear.
A little more clear. And then I started researching how to handle my money situation, get out of the debt I was in, how to put my money into buckets so that I knew what money was coming out of where. I went back to work full time. I had to upgrade my skills so that I could earn more money. All these things came one after the other, but it all started with taking care of me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's probably a huge factor, is that a lot of women, especially if you're in a relationship with someone who's controlling like that, don't know how to live financially.
Exactly. I wasn't allowed to take care of my own money. And before we were married, I was just taking care of me.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. Then we got married, and then I wasn't even working for the first 4 years because we had 3 babies in the first 4 years.
Yeah.
Then I went back to work part-time, and it was such a little bit of money, it didn't bother me that he wanted to figure out which bills it was going to pay or whatever. But it grew from, oh, here's my little tiny paycheck, to now I was earning a substantial amount of money, and he was going to the post office box where we got our mail before I did and signing my name and putting it into an account that I had no access to. So it went from something seemingly so benign
Right.
to like, you're stealing my money.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's crazy. And how long from the time that you started working again till you started working with other victims of domestic violence?
Well, it took me a really long time. The divorce went on for so long, so it was certainly not in those first 6 years before the divorce was final. And then, even though I was in and out of court, I really did start feeling like I had made such a huge transformation. I had gone from this, battered victim person to someone who was really in control of her life. My job was going really well. I was financially sound. The kids were doing well. Everything, we'd moved to a new place. Everything was great. And I really wanted to start giving back. I was so grateful that I came out the way I did.
Yeah, absolutely. You should be really proud of yourself.
Well, thank you. But anybody can do it.
Right.
You just have to pull yourself up and do it.
And you need help.
You do need help.
And it's okay to ask for help.
Absolutely. I was blessed because I'm very close to my mother, and she was a great support for me. But I started doing volunteer work for the Coalition Against Domestic Violence because I figured, they helped me. They were the first people who stepped up when the morning my husband choked me, and the policeman said, go straight to the courthouse and get an order of protection before he's let out. So the second I walked in, the advocates from the Coalition Against Domestic Violence swooped in when they called them, and really held my hand and showed me how to do the paperwork and what I needed to do. So that was the agency that helped me, so I wanted to give back to them.
Nice.
Yeah, so I did a lot of training to become the hospital advocate. So when a victim of domestic violence ends up in the hospital, that hospital contacts the coalition, and they send whoever's on call to go assess the situation, see what guidance or support they might need. Sometimes it's so bad that they need to be put in a safe house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that took a lot of training before I was allowed to do that, but I did that for years and years.
Oh, wow. And then at some point you realized, I could do this full time, and you became a divorce coach.
Yes.
Now,
Well, I'm
did you
born-
invent that, or was that around?
It's a thing. I didn't know. Well, for a moment I thought I did, but
Like, oh, somebody else thought of
yeah,
that?
yeah.
But it's great. I mean, thank God, because there's so many people that don't know, how the heck do I get out of this?
Right. I knew that this was really my calling. This is where I needed to be, and I needed to make it my full-time career. So
And it's clearly a passion to help other people not be in that position.
Exactly.
Or get out of it if they are.
Exactly. I just, when I was in it, I was so humiliated and embarrassed by where I had let my life get to. I didn't want anyone to know. I didn't tell my family, my closest friends, what
Right.
my marriage was like, because it was embarrassing.
Yeah, shame and
So shameful. Like I come from a decent house of family and have decent education. Like, how could this have happened to me?
Right.
But, it does. It happens to everybody.
yeah, and and they're like, there but for the grace of everybody, who knows
Right.
where your life is going to bring you.
Right. And I also knew some other women who I knew were in similar situations, but too fearful
Yeah.
to take a step.
Right. It's like an abused child wants to stay with that parent. I'm
Exactly.
sure an abused spouse wants to stay with the spouse.
Because you think
That's familiar.
Yeah. You think that you're doing it for your children,
Mm-hmm.
but when I look at my children now and I remember my children then, it's not even close.
Yeah.
Like, their life is profoundly better.
Right. I know your children, and they're awesome.
Thank you.
And they thrive, and they're awesome kids, or young men, whatever.
I
sorry.
cannot imagine they could be any happier.
Right.
And, they saw their mother being smothered and controlled, and that can't be a good way to live, nor is it a good role model to follow.
I agree, 1,000%.
Right. I had to show them that this wasn't acceptable.
Right. So you developed your program.
I developed my program.
How does it work?
Well, it's sort of a holistic thing because, like you said, it's not just about learning how to get a divorce. It's
Right.
about taking care of yourself.
Right.
Because if you're not strong enough to get through it, it's not going to work. It's a marathon.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. You really have to get into training.
It's
you have
long term. Yeah. And developing habits for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. My personal favorite, and it's not for everybody, but I really believe in that getting up an hour earlier than you have to method, where you have an hour that is totally yours to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where you're going to do some sort of exercise. You're going to drink some hot water with lemon to get
Meditate.
Yes,
Or
meditate.
just breathe for a few minutes.
Yeah, read an inspirational book, read some affirmations, just think about what you're grateful for. You just need that hour to ground yourself.
Yeah.
I like to get out in nature if it's possible, because that just expedites the whole process.
Absolutely.
If you have a beach or even grass outside or anything, that helps if it's good weather. If not, just sit on the floor.
You can create a little corner of your house
Yeah.
or your room or whatever that, has a candle and a cushion and
Absolutely. You make your own little altar.
Yeah, exactly.
Just to be grateful for that space.
I used to call it my meditation station. But yeah, I mean, that's great advice for anybody.
Exactly. And especially women who are in this situation, it's the last thing they want to do. It's the last thing they think of doing is taking care of themselves.
Right.
They're thinking of all the problems. They're thinking of their children. They're thinking about...
Especially mom mode. You're in
Yeah.
mom mode. I'm a caretaker.
Right.
What do you need? I got it. I'll do this for you. I'll do that for you. And,
Right.
Sometimes you have to put the brakes on.
Absolutely. And if you're getting up with your kids, it's impossible. I mean, the train's already moving.
Right, right.
So you really have to get yourself out of bed that hour earlier and spend it on you, and don't do anything that's for anyone else but you.
Yeah, that is excellent advice. And I think that sounds like a really great program. So not only do they learn how to holistically take care of themselves, but do you give legal advice as well?
I can't give legal advice because I'm not an attorney and I'm not a psychologist.
Right.
But I know a lot about a lot of things, so I can advise them on who the best resource would be for specific legal advice. The best case scenario is if a woman comes to me before the papers are filed or before she's hired an attorney, because I can help her get all of her paperwork in order before the attorney is starting to charge her hourly
Right.
for helping her do it.
Right.
So I can help you figure out how to do your net worth statement, how to prepare all the backstory that your lawyer is going to ask for. And if you wait until you've retained him, then he's going to have someone in his office, or even himself at $300 an hour or whatever,
ask you all these questions.
ask you all this. And if you could, I had one attorney who's a referral partner for me tell me that when they come with my binder full of information, it saves at least thousands, maybe even $10,000
Wow.
of their time.
Wow.
So it's such a huge money saver. So ideally, I want to find these women who need help before they write that retainer check.
Right. And now I know you specialize in victims of domestic violence, but say there's, Sally Jones wants to get a divorce, and
Absolutely.
it can't, it's nothing terrible, but it's enough to, I don't want to feel like this anymore. What should I do?
Everyone has their own challenges, so that's what got me into this field, my own backstory. But certainly, I'm a divorce coach for everyone.
Right.
Right. I can.
Do you do men as well as women?
I haven't, but I've had a couple asks, so I might consider opening up to that, because what could be better than getting a woman's perspective?
Absolutely.
For a man to be divorcing. So, it's definitely something I see happening in the future.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not all divorce is contentious. Sometimes you can have a mediator and split, as Gwyneth Paltrow says,
yes,
consciously uncoupling.
Uncouple. I don't know anyone who's been able to do that so far. But
I guess, I don't know. I guess that's true. But it's just a great tool, a great resource to know where you are, who you are, and reach out to you if, anybody has questions on even do you think this sounds bad? Should I get a therapist or should I get a divorce?
Right. Well, people always ask me what the difference between getting a coach and a therapist would be. And I tell them that typically a therapist is trying to help you understand how you got yourself here in this situation.
Right.
Like, what are your patterns?
Right.
And
which
how
helps
you can,
for the future.
It helps for the future, and how you can break those patterns of falling into this relationship. But I tell them a divorce coach really doesn't care how you got there. I'm just looking forward.
Right.
I'm just going to help you get through the next part of your life, and
so you can begin again.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. So a nice little tag team, maybe coach and therapist. Would be great.
Right.
In an ideal world. Now, how do you have a website? How
I
do people
do.
reach you?
I do. It's divorcecourseforwomen.com, and on there you can schedule a complimentary free session.
Nice.
So we can talk about your situation, and I can assess if you're a person that I might be able to help.
Yeah.
I haven't met anyone yet that I couldn't, but I'm sure they're out there. So we have a session to get to know each other and see if we're a good fit.
Perfect. And what if someone is in the situation that you were in where they don't have access to finances? Do you help them with that?
It hasn't come up, but I'm sure that there's a way to work around. I do have a payment plan, so you don't have to make the entire payment up front. My program is a 6-month program because it really takes that long to make big mindset shifts.
And it's nice to, while you're going through it, have someone who understands exactly what you're going through, who's not your mom or your sister or your best friend, who's not going to weigh in with, well, I always told you he was a jerk, or whatever.
First of all, your family is too biased to give you any real sound advice.
Right.
And your friends don't know what to say to you.
Yeah.
And they kind of want to,
please don't tell me about this.
Yeah. And they think it's contagious. They don't want to catch that. Right. So it's really hard to find someone who's going to give you really objective advice. Also, I have great tools up my sleeve for how to deal with your ex-husband, how to speak to him. You're going to have to co-parent together.
Right.
Like how you can effectively co-parent with somebody you can't even stand to look at. Right. You're going to have to find ways. And also how to talk to your children about this.
Yeah.
It's so easy to try to partner with them, and they are not your friend right now.
Right.
They're kids. They're going through their own set of issues with this, and they need you to parent and take the high road. And
And that's the thing. It's like, even if you feel bad for them, you know, that's not the time to start being best friends with
No.
Johnny. You know,
No.
it's like boundaries, and you're still making the decisions, and you're still there for them, and it's safe, and don't worry. And
Right, and being so careful. But one time, one of my oldest son came to me when I thought they were long asleep, and I was on the phone talking to someone about something that had happened. And the next morning, he goes, "Mom, can you not talk about this?" I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know you could hear." He's like, "Yeah, I was awake." So you have to be so careful.
Yeah.
They don't want to hear it.
Right. I understand that.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, because I really feel like, even though I'd never heard of this before, I think that, once I read about it, and now after talking to you, invaluable to people who are struggling and going through this. So thank you.
Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I hope more people find out about it.
And do you have a Facebook page?
I do. Divorce course for women, I think. I don't know.
We'll check that out. But
If you,
try Divorce Course for Women.
If you search Divorce Course for Women,
On
I think you
Facebook.
will find it.
Okay, good. So thank you, Victoria. I appreciate it. And if you ever have to say anything else, come on back.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. And as always, if you like what you hear, you can go to iTunes and subscribe, rate and review if you have a chance. And work hard, be nice, have fun. Peace.